Hello, my dear listeners. Welcome to Teenage Talks, the podcast which empowers teens and young adults. Today, I'm going to touch upon a topic which is important not only for teens, but everyone, parents, siblings, friends, all adults. That is suicides and their prevention. It is said that suicide is the second leading cause of death following motor vehicle accidents among teenagers and young adults. A young person dying because of overwhelming helplessness or frustration is devastating to family, friends, community. Parents, siblings, classmates, coaches, and neighbors might be left wondering if they could have done something to prevent that young person from turning to suicide. Why do teens consider suicide? Is it a result of mental health disorder? Do they consider it as a solution to their problems? Is it an impulsive decision, or they may be already planning it? Which teens are at a risk for suicide? To answer these questions and many more, we have an expert in mental health who has been dealing with suicide prevention for many years. He is the founder chairman of Banjara Academy, whose motto is to empower people to solve their problems. He conducts many courses, the most important being Diploma in Counseling Skills. He is a very simple, down-to-earth person, an excellent counselor, and a good friend. Without much ado, I welcome one and only Dr. Ali Khwaja.
Very good evening, Chaya and all the listeners. I'm here.
Thanks, Ali, for accepting my invitation to participate in this important discussion. And my first question to you is, are the suicides among teens increasing? Or do we feel it because of media reporting?
Media reporting definitely has become much more than what it was earlier. But since I don't go by the macro level, I deal at the micro level, I am not in a position to give statistically whether they have increased or not. And as you know, the statistics given out by authorities are not always very reliable. So let us not worry about whether it's increasing or to what extent and all that, but let us definitely be concerned about the fact that there are more and more youngsters who are feeling suicidal.
Why do teens consider suicide? And what are the factors which increase the risk of suicide among teens?
Yeah. See, as we are well aware, teenage is that phase of life where one is hunting for an identity. Before coming to adolescence, a child is happy in his cocoon that my parents are there, my teachers are there, they will take care of whatever my needs are. Sometimes I'm not very happy with them, but I have to obey them. So life is simple. When a child becomes an adolescent and when the hormones are activated and then the child starts thinking in a wider context, the child starts looking for an identity. Many teenagers do find an identity. They say, this is the career I want to take up. This is the type of friends I want to have. This is the type of relationship I want to have with my parents and my family members. But some of them don't. So it starts from there. In all these areas, be it relationships, sexuality, career, and academics, if they find that they are not relating to it, not finding an identity, getting isolated, that is the first step when a person starts giving up on life.
They get isolated, you mean, because of their careers or
Yes,
relationships.
yes, they feel isolated and then they can't see a bright future ahead of them. When they feel that life is not worth it, I may not be able to be successful, I may not be able to make something, I will be a disgrace to my parents, I will never be able to achieve anything great in life. Then the thought comes in that why should I live?
So, is it a mental health disorder?
Yes, it is acknowledged as a mental health disorder. But as I said, the very idea of suicide, the ideation, when it starts, the thoughts start coming in, that is the time when we need to start taking it at a serious level. I would guess that for every one completed suicide, there are 5 or 10 attempted suicides, and there may be 50 to 100 people who are thinking of suicide. That is the segment. And why are they thinking of suicide? It could be depression, isolation, loneliness. Some of these are recognized as mental illnesses. Some of them are just, social issues which they have to tackle with.
The high parental expectations,
Yes,
divorces and financial problems, all those things contribute to
Yes,
suicide?
family plays a very, very important role in the life of a teenager, because if the family is stable, if the parents are there, and that emotional security, then they feel that life is worth it. Somebody is there to take care of me. I don't mind if I have ups and downs, if I fail in an examination or my friends let me down. But as you rightly said, if there is a discord in the family, if the families are not very happy, and the child starts feeling emotionally insecure, and that adds on to that distress of where is my future.
Is it an impulsive decision, or they may be already planning it?
My estimate is that 90-95% of suicides are very well thought over. A small percentage, you know, is impulsive, where something very tragic happens and the person just loses it and says, no, I don't want to live, and then jumps off a cliff or whatever it is. But the vast majority, there is a background. Even let's say a person who fails in an exam and commits suicide. We have lakhs of children who fail in exams. But why this particular number who commit suicide? Because somewhere there was a low self-esteem, there was a worthlessness, there was a feeling of isolation and loneliness that was already there. Now, the last straw on the camel's back was when the result comes and the person realizes that I have failed in the exam. And that drives the last nail in the coffin, and the person says, I don't want to live.
Supposing that same boy would have got good scores, then you think he might have still committed suicide?
No, it would have at least prevented suicide at that time, but the major issue, the underlying issue would not have resolved. That there may be high parental expectations. Okay, you passed, but you haven't got enough percentage to get into medicine, which is what we wanted you to do. You won't get into a good college. So again, that thing starts piling up. And the next time there is some trigger or something, the person is highly high risk towards attempting suicide.
That is, that suicidal tendency will always be there. And any major
Yes.
thing that happens, he might commit suicide.
Yes. We call it no suicidal ideation. That means the idea of suicide is somewhere lurking in his mind. Is there anything left for me in life? Am I needed by somebody? Am I going to achieve anything? Or am I a failure?
The other day, Times of India reported that one 17-year-old girl committed suicide because she was sharing a cell phone with her brother, and he changed the password and he didn't tell her, and she committed suicide. Was it what do you think? Is it an impulsive decision? Or she was already planning it?
Bad way in which the media and the police and all these people report to it. Like I told you, even something as drastic as failing in an exam, it is, as I told you, the last nail. So what would have happened is that this girl was already feeling isolated. Maybe she was being compared with her brother, and the brother was being given, I'm just guessing. I don't know that particular case, obviously. So, possibilities I'm just exploring with you. That it is possible that the parents were comparing her to a brother, possible that she felt I am not very good looking, or she may have had a breakup with her boyfriend. So many things could have happened one by one. And then she is trying to reach out maybe to some friends and all that through that phone, and the brother locks the phone, and she realizes that even that last opening is closed for me, then why do I live? And that is when she takes that impulsive action. But the build-up has been definitely there in most of the cases.
So could that be just sibling rivalry?
Sibling rivalry will be only one aspect of it. It could be her academic prowess, it could be her relationship with her peers, it could be her self-image, it could be the way parents have been treating her, all that put together. Because suicide is an extreme case. It takes a lot of courage for a person to actually end her life. So when she comes to that point where she says, I will take that step, I will go ahead and commit suicide, that means things have pushed her beyond her capacity to bear.
Okay. Even one 13-year-old boy committed suicide because parents shouted at him for not doing the housework. So do you think that was impulsive, or that might have been going on in his mind for quite some time? Because
definitely. Yes, if somebody were to be able to go into the whole history of the 13 years of his life, one will definitely find that there were factors, one after another. And as long as he was a child, somehow he bore with it and somehow he felt that his parents are there. When he comes to adolescence and when he starts exploring his identity, and then he realizes that I'm not going for anything. My parents think that I am nothing but a servant. My grades are like this. My teachers scold me. My friends tease me or bully me. You will definitely find a history of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things which are added on. And that particular day, something happened, and the parent said something, and he said, "Okay, I've had enough, and I will end my life." Which is another very important factor, that the age of people attempting or committing suicide has definitely come down compared to earlier years. Younger and younger teenagers are now attempting suicide.
Have you heard of children below the age of 10 committing suicides?
No, thankfully, so far we have not come across any case directly, but I wouldn't rule it out. Maybe 1 in a million, whatever it is. But you see, we are not looking at statistics. We are looking at a human life, and that too an innocent life of a child who's got his whole life ahead of him. But so far, it starts with adolescence.
Okay. Early detection is critical prevention strategy. How do we identify the teens with suicidal tendencies? What are the behavioral changes we should watch?
Yes. Before we even come to the suicidal aspect, because committing suicide or attempting suicide or having ideas of suicide are that extreme which a person has been led to. So let us first take one step backward and say, what is happening in the life of a particular child? I told you, starts with a simple thing like self-esteem. If the child is being put down, the child has a bad self-image, the child is being compared to others. So it starts from there, that I am worthless, I am not good, I cannot make my elders or my teachers or my parents happy, my friends don't care for me. It starts with something like that. And then if there is a sense of isolation, that friends are ganging up, that again happens only in teenage, that they start making these gangs and groups. And if they say, no, we don't want you in the group, nobody wants me, I'm left alone. Once that starts, then we are laying the first foundations towards a person eventually going towards suicide. So the prevention at that stage, wherever you feel that a child is having emotional insecurity, having low self-esteem, a sense of isolation and loneliness, a directionlessness, that I don't know what I'm going to be when I grow up. These are the first factors. Out of so many people who go through, some of them take the next step forward. That is, they start with looking for alternatives. So, okay, if I cannot get into IIT, I will go to such and such engineering college. If I can't get into a degree, I'll get into a diploma. So like that, they start exploring. When they find that even that is not possible, they start feeling helpless. There are 3 pillars. Once they fall one after another, the person definitely starts getting suicidal thoughts. The first one is helplessness. There's nobody to help me. I can't help myself. I don't find any solution to the issues and the problems and the hurdles that I am facing. Even then, the person may not, feel suicidal, but he lives on hope. So somewhere along the line, a person may be, for example, having great faith in God. Okay, nobody cares for me. At least God will take care of me. God will not let me down. Anything like that. I have a friend who said that I will help you. My grandfather is there. If I tell him, he will definitely rescue me. So when a person feels helpless, the person moves on to hope. But in case the hope goes away, then nobody. I don't think God loves me or God will take care of me. I don't have anybody in the family I can reach out to. None of my friends are going to do something. So I don't see any change. I don't think that I will ever be able to qualify, or I'll be able to do something great, or my looks will improve, or anything. So when the hope goes down, the person has taken the second step. And that is when the person actually starts thinking that, why am I living? And the answer comes in the form of whether I have become worthless. That is the third pillar. As long as I'm worthy, somebody cares for me, somebody needs me, somebody loves me, I'm serving some purpose by being over here. My granny, loves me, and I take care of her, and she's so thankful to me because she can't move around much. So I do all these things for her. So my granny needs me. I have a worth as a person who takes care of my granny. I'm giving a very oversimplistic example, But as long as there is some worth in a person's mind, the person will not take that extreme step. But in case the person feels that I am not worthy, I'm not serving any purpose by being here, I'm just, eating food and using somebody's money, or just not achieving anything in life, then why should I live? And that is where the ideation or the thoughts of suicide start.
No, what are the early stages? Like, what should parents look for? Like, what are the early signs for them
Yeah,
to
be
think
it
that the child
parents,
may be?
be it parents, be it friends, be it teachers. I think all of us should be sensitive to this, the teenage, which is an age of emotional turmoil, of looking for identity and ups and downs and all that. So what we need to look for is a change in the behavior. Supposing one child has always been very quiet and very docile and very withdrawn, nothing wrong with it. He can still grow up and become a successful person. But a person who was outgoing, who was very social, who was an extrovert, and of late you find that he is withdrawing into a shell. He's not talking to family members, he's not talking to friends, he's not involving himself in any group activities among his classmates or something. That is an indicator. Similarly, if he starts, these are all changes that need to be checked. There are children who just don't care about their grooming or their dressing. It's okay, nothing wrong with it. But a person who used to be very well dressed, very smart, looking after his grooming and checking everything, and suddenly you find that he's got a stubble beard and he's not shaving and he's wearing, some unironed or dirty clothes, that is an indication. Some of the more serious indications are when a person starts settling matters. I borrowed this book from you. I want to return. I don't even remember when I had lent this book to you. It's okay, I'll keep it. No, I don't want to keep anybody's things. I want to settle these matters. I owe money to somebody. I have this. I have something to take care of. So I start settling. Anybody who suddenly appears to be settling matters as though there is no tomorrow, that is a very serious, indicator that a person may be getting suicidal thoughts. So like that, if you keep totaling, each one of them by itself may not mean anything. But if you look at 1, 2, 3, 4, you will find, including the fact that since, as I told you, vast majority of these suicides are contemplated, planned, explored different options, then given up hope, then become hopeless and, worthless. So what happens is that you will even see that the person is either talking very negatively about the future. If you say, in May we've got summer holidays and we've all decided to go in such and such place, you'll come with us. He'll make some very, negative remark. Who will be there in May? God knows, yeah, what are you talking about? I don't want to plan like that. So the child will start giving you some indication that he is not looking towards his future. Very often, at least to some trusted person or person, they also say that, something like a philosophical thought. What is life? What are we going to achieve by these? Look at how corruption and terrorism and this and that is spreading in the world. There's nothing to look forward to. I don't think the world is a great place. Normally, what happens, you think of it as just some rambling by a youngster. But if he is doing this more than once, twice, he has every now and then, or to different people, he's bringing out these things. These are also very strong indicators. So out of the half a dozen that I said, if you find 1, 2, 3 of them happening, one should definitely start looking at it seriously.
Even excessive crying is also
excessive crying. Yes, crying. And in most cases, they cry alone. So you don't even get to know. But if there is a hint that, he comes out of his room with red eyes and you feel that, yes, he's been crying. So crying alone is very, very, isolating and a very helpless situation, that even when I'm crying, there is nobody there to dry my tears.
And some children can mask all these signs and behave as though nothing is wrong with them. Is it also a possibility? Even with suicidal tendencies, it is possible.
Some of them do that. particularly because they don't want anybody to know and start chasing them or taking care of them or preventing them. So if they know that there are people who will immediately wake up and will start, monitoring him or something, then he may put on a mask and try to show that he's very jovial. But he does let his guard down sometime or the other. That is the interesting thing. I have had cases where people have said, no, he was very jolly, he was this. And then one friend says, no, when I was alone with him, he was saying this type of thing. Or another friend says that, I told him, yeah, that shirt is not ironed. Why are you wearing it? What difference does it make? Yeah. So he just lets his guard slip down. That is where we need to be sensitive, be it a family member, be it a friend, be it a teacher, whoever it is.
I read somewhere that National Institute of Mental Health in USA, they developed an app, Ask Suicide Screening Question tool. And it is said it's a validated tool for use among both youth and adults. And it has got set of 4 questions that takes 20 seconds to administer. So the first question is, in the past few weeks, have you wished you were dead?
Yeah.
Second question is, in the past few weeks, have you felt that you or your family would be better off if you were dead? In the past week, have you been having thoughts about killing yourself? Fourth one, have you ever tried to kill yourself? If yes, how and when? So if the patient answers yes to any of the above, they say, ask the following questions. Are you having thoughts of killing yourself right now? If yes, please describe. So my question to you is, do you think teens will answer these questions honestly?
Yeah. Now, the thing is, as you know, the culture in the Western countries and in Asian or Indian culture is totally different. So we may not be successful if we use things like apps and all that, which they are doing successfully there, because they may not be open to disclosing. They're not sure who will listen to it, how the message will be passed on and things like that. But something very similar can be done, should be done, and we actually do it whenever we come across somebody. Let's say either he's failed in his exam, or he's had a relationship breakup, or he's getting very badly scolded by his parents, something like that is happening. We do ask very similar questions. We call it the S question. That is about suicide. Have you ever had thoughts that is it so bad that you feel life is not worth living? Do you get these sort of thoughts in the night? If you don't get sleep, do you get very frustrated and you feel that I just don't want to see tomorrow morning? So in a very gentle and a very subtle manner, we bring about very similar questions to the ones that you said, but it has to be done by somebody whom he trusts. So a counselor, an elder, whoever it may be, whom he trusts. When that person goes into this, then yes. And it is said that if a person can admit that I am feeling suicidal to a trusted person, 50 to 75% of his suicide risk comes down there and then. Just the fact that he has shared it with somebody whom he trusts, and that person has taken it in the right manner, is not put him down or is not told him it is a sin you should not do or whatever it is, it really helps. So the suicide risk comes down. The second part that you told about NIM is that to ask more questions, that's what we do. Once the person admits that, yeah, I get, how stupid, sometimes a person may say, you're so stupid, last night I was just not getting sleep and I was tossing, turning. And I said, why don't I just jump off the balcony? I woke up in the morning and I said, how stupid of me. Why did I think like this? But that is when we tell them that, no, it is not stupid. You did go momentarily to such a low mental phase that you actually thought of it. So now let us talk more about it. How often do these thoughts come? Have you actually done something? Have you actually gone to some terrace and stood there and looked down and calculated, if I jump from here, will I definitely die? Any of these things. And the ultimate is when the person gives you a date or a time frame. Yes, I want to do it next Sunday, or I want to do it as soon as my holidays are there, or I want to do it the day all my family goes for a picnic. I will give some excuse and stay back. Nobody will be in the house. I will do it. These are some very, very, very strong indicators. And the last, of course, is if the person has already made some arrangements. I found out that rat poison can kill. So I went and bought 2 cans of rat poison and I've hidden it in the bathroom. I found that, tying a knot with some rope or with a dupatta or something. So I managed to find something and I've kept it carefully hidden away. So when a person has taken steps, you know that the suicide risk is extremely high.
Do you think that parents and teachers should discuss the topic of suicide with teens in general?
I feel very strongly that we should. But it should not be made into a discussion of suicide. It should be start on a positive note that what builds up hope, what gives you motivation, what gives you that desire to perform and be successful. Start with that. And then talk about what hinders success or ambition or motivation. Among that, go to the emotional issues. That if you are feeling isolated, if you're feeling lonely, and touch upon the fact that if you do not do that, in the extreme case, you may start getting suicidal thoughts. Others have done it, and therefore we are cautioning you that do not allow these things to manifest itself. And then finally, we have to give them some practical tips on how they can overcome that, including whether it's talking to a counselor, a teacher, or a parent, whoever it is, how to overcome that isolation. If your friends are neglecting you, can you find another group of friends? If you're not able to get admission in a good college, can you go for a second best college? All these practical solutions should be given. The moment he starts getting the solution, he no longer feels helpless. He starts having hope and he does not feel worthless.
Schools and colleges, apart from having counselors, what else they can do to prevent suicides?
I think some time can be set aside even by some, sensitive teachers. Not all teachers are capable of doing it, but at least every college, every school has got some very sensitive and caring teachers. If they are trained, you don't have to rely only, because counselors are very few and far apart. So the child may not always have access to the counselor, but the child on a daily basis has access to the teacher. So some sensitive teachers, if they can take out 5 minutes from their lesson and talk about these things, talk about depression, talk about feeling lonely, talk about these things, and then just leave them with that thing. If you want more details, you come and meet me in the staff room, or you call me up on this, or whatever it is. And that is when, if the teacher feels that it is getting a little serious, she can refer to either a counselor in the school, or if they don't have, then any other psychologist or therapist or whatever.
I have read somewhere that Cambridge University takes all the details about a student, all the physical ailments, mental ailments, everything, and they do identify who is likely to have a mental health disorder, and then approach the patient in that manner. So you think, can we do it in our country too?
Again, the same thing, the difference in the culture between the Western and the Indian way of thinking. If my child were to be sitting and filling this form, and if he actually has been going through bouts of depression, I will never allow him to fill that in, because I'll say, you won't get admission in the college. Don't you dare write anything like that. We are so secretive, we don't even like to share it among our extended family or neighbors or anybody. So if I find that my child is feeling very isolated, my daughter, took a blade and cut her wrist or something, we immediately try to hide the thing and brush it under the carpet. So if tomorrow that child is seeking admission in a university and they ask, have you done anything like this? Have you had this thing? I will say, never ever write anything like that, because number one, you may be denied admission. Number two, if you get admission, you will be stigmatized. This word will leak out and people will laugh at you and say, oh, you tried to kill yourself.
So that doesn't work for us.
May not. I'm not an educationist at that level. Maybe they can sit and explore and decide. But my personal opinion is that I don't think that will work.
So it is possible to prevent suicides. So what are the steps to prevent suicides?
Yes. Keep an eye at an individual level. Look for changes in behavior and attitude. Talk to the person. Make the person talk anything and everything that he or she wants to talk. And when you find anything which is even vaguely resembling that helplessness and hopelessness and worthlessness, take that person under your wing and start working to build up these 3 factors.
So parents have to play a role, and teachers have to play a role, and even
And
friends. So parents, teachers, and friends, and maybe siblings too.
True.
Yeah. So they can refer then to a mental health person. So that way so what does really a mental health person do? Like, as a counselor, how do you approach a suicidal?
That's exactly what I was telling you just now, that if I find that a person has failed in the exam, or the person is being bullied, or the person has had a relationship breakup, I will lead that on to the feeling level. Do you feel that you will be able to overcome this? Do you feel that there are alternatives existing for you? We say that suicide is attempted by a person when he comes into what they refer to as the TINA syndrome, that TINA. That is, there is no alternative. So since there is no other alternative, I want to kill myself. So we start working on the factor of there are always alternatives. Give me some time. Be with me. We'll sit down and discuss. Perhaps, possibly, we may be able to come out with some alternative which will resolve this issue to some extent. The other thing is to give hope. Even if today you are not getting what you want, tomorrow you will get it. So things can improve. It is not that just because you're going through a bad time now, the rest of your life will be in that situation. And third, to give a lot of positive strokes and boost the self-esteem by saying you're a worthy person. Even if you're not doing well in academics or whatever, you're not good looking or whatever the negativity that the child feels, we can start highlighting the positive things. You know how much your grandmother loves you because you take care of her. You know that social service or this thing that you are doing, you're part of the Scouts or NCC, or you're doing so many such good things. You have this, your friends look up to you so many times and so often. Like that, keep on making the person feel worthy. And that is what, is the major thing of preventing suicide.
So maybe they may improve at that moment. Maybe as the days pass by, they may still carry the tendency within them.
Yes, that possibility is there. And that is where this thing comes of leaving the person with that idea that I am there for you. I care for you so much that I am willing to be there for you, whatever happens. We do it very often. I've personally done it so many times. I've told them that even if it's in the middle of the night, just send me a message. Whether I read it at that point of time or not is not important, but I will definitely respond to you. So when that person shoots off a message, not even sure whether I am awake and whether I will listen to it, it is like an emptying out, a catharsis. The person feels lighter. And then the person waits for a response. I have told my counselor that I don't want to live and I want to die. What will the answer come? And that itself carries the person through till morning. When I wake up, I reply, I start saying, okay, let's move on. Let's try and do something. Let us see what best can be done.
So you are saying that if they have a person with whom they can relate to and confide in them, it makes a lot of difference to them. Okay.
Even one person.
One person is enough.
Is enough.
Ali, what is your message finally to teens and adults?
That I told you that never get into that TINA syndrome. We are living in the 21st century. Our economy, our growth, our globalization is going at such a wonderful level that I tell the youngsters that you're very lucky to be living in this era and in this great country, so that there are ample opportunities. It is not just the people who stand first in class or who get scholarships or who go to the top-notch universities or whatever it is, or only the good-looking ones or the ones who have language expertise. No. Anybody and everybody can carve out a good future. Okay. So work on that. Don't hesitate to take help wherever and whenever it is needed. Tomorrow you may be able to help somebody else. So don't look at it as a demeaning thing. Look at it as, okay, I've fallen down. I will hold somebody's hand to get up. Tomorrow, if somebody else falls down, I can also reach out by that hand. Keep up that attitude.
Thank you, Ali, for throwing so much of light on suicide and prevention of suicide. I'm sure apart from teens, parents and adults would be benefited by this podcast. I would like to do many more podcasts with a knowledgeable person like you, Ali. Thank you very much.
It's my
It's a real
pleasure.
pleasure.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you guys for listening. Please share this podcast with as many people as you can. Myself and Dr. Khwaja will be happy even if one person is benefited by this. If any of you want to know more about suicide, you can contact Dr. Khwaja at Banjara Academy. His email ID is alikhwaja50@gmail.com. Thank you very much.